degrees. I think that we're going to avoid any mixing up the higher elevations, but once it starts raining, I think really mid to late morning, I don't think it's really going to stop. We're going to have anywhere from a light to moderate rain. Even if the couple of bald spots do form, it'll just still be misty and damp. Rain will be heavy at times, but notice the time. This is 3 o'clock. It's really not until the end of the day. So we have rain chances from about 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. This is perfect napping weather, if you ask me. It's cold, it's damp, not a day that you really want to be outside all that much. How much rain is going to come out of this? I think anywhere from about a ½ inch to about an inch of rain when all is said and done. But as my favorite saying goes, sunshine always follows rain, and that comes true on Friday. Friday, actually, it's a nice little jump. When you don't have the sunshine, that really cools things off. So look at the difference. 49 degrees for a high on Thursday, mid-60s on Friday and Saturday, 70. Good to see you again. That's going to be coming back again on Sunday, heading into Monday. So a good-looking forecast. It's only one day that doesn't belong with the rest. So enjoy another week in November. All in all, not too bad.
What's near me? If you're out and see news, open the WCNC News app and go to Near Me on the bottom right. Then tap Share with Us. Upload your photo or video and tell us about it. Hit Submit and your news has reached our team at WCNC Charlotte.
Everybody.
Right, it is.
Present virtually, and Mr. Philbeck.
Here.
Also virtual, Treasurer Falwell.
Here.
In person. We have a quorum, and also present for the meeting, LGC staff, including Debbie Tabasco, Secretary, Jennifer Wimmer, Director of Debt Management, Kendra Boyle, Director of Fiscal Management, Stephanie Bassick, Assistant Director of Debt Management. As per usual, the meeting proceedings are being recorded and will be made available to the public pursuant to the department's recording public meetings policy. Everyone will please remember to identify yourself when speaking. When you are participating virtually, please mute yourself if you are not speaking. If we have a power or AV connection issue, the meeting will possibly continue if possible. All audio and video may be continuing to be broadcast, so please keep that in mind if you are virtual. Our agenda is posted on the website, www.nctreasure.com, at the LGC page. If we have changes to the agenda, it will be announced to the chair during the meeting. We will take all votes by roll call without objection. Your motions and seconds will be considered as yes votes unless you want to indicate otherwise during the roll call vote. And as Debbie mentioned a few minutes ago, the microphones in the ceiling are extremely sensitive, and every month I have to tell myself not to rustle my papers because it picks up on the recording. So please feel free to have any private conversations outside. Whispers can even be picked up on the microphones. Oh, thank you. Ms. Harvey has arrived. All right, thank you very much. Virtual. Okay, I believe that's all. Thank you, Treasurer.
Okay. Thank you, Cindy. With that, in honor of Veterans Day, I know we have a lot of veterans in our midst here, but I'd like to ask Mr. Butler to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. And then Secretary Marshall, contrary to popular belief, he wasn't in the war. So, and we'll have Secretary Marshall lead us in the North Carolina Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I salute the flag
of North Carolina and pledge to the Old North State love, loyalty, and faith.
Thank you. Congratulate Secretary Marshall on her starting her 8th term as the Secretary of State. And congratulations to you.
Thank you, sir.
We're also pleased to have Treasurer-elect Briner to my left, who's been in transition meetings most of the day, as I announced several months ago after the election, and we're glad to have him here. Alder-elect Dave Bullock is here. Both these folks, Treasurer-elect Briner will be chairing the board, and Alder-elect Bullock will be sitting on the board. So welcome you all. As I look around the room, I see elected officials, Representative Crutchfield is here and some others, so I'm sure I've missed some folks here, so welcome you all. We have a conflicts of interest statement. Please take a moment to review the agenda. Does anyone have actual potential or appearance of a conflict of interest regarding matters that are coming before us? Okay, hearing none, should a conflict arise during the meeting, please let me, Chair, know. We've got a very lengthy agenda today, some very important topics. Oh, sorry, did somebody mention something about conflict?
Sorry, this is Ms. Harvey. Hi. I'd like to raise the Bald Head Island issue. That's a miscellaneous item on the consent agenda. Robinson Bradshaw is the bond attorney there. The bond lawyer's there, and my husband works for that firm. He's a partner there.
Thank you, Ms. Harvey, for always bringing that to our attention. Noted. Without objection, anybody makes a motion or second to motion will be considered a yes vote for efficiency purposes. As you've heard, please mute your phone as we move forward. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda of the meeting minutes of October 1st, 2024.
So moved. Second motion.
Alder Holmes makes a motion. Secretary Marshall seconds that motion. Any further discussion regarding the meeting minutes? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
October meeting minutes, Holmes, Marshall, Secretary Penny. Secretary Penny, you're up.
I couldn't get my mute button.
Sorry. Thank you, sir. Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Butler? Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you all very much. I'll turn the meeting over to Jennifer and Kendra to talk, the OPEB report, which is attachment A. As many of you have heard me say in the past, it's funny how God made our hand. Anytime you're pointing the finger at someone, there are three more pointing back at you. The biggest offender of not having a funded health plan is the state of North Carolina itself at $35 billion, larger than the state budget. So the OPEB report is before you. This is a report that talks about the entities that are coming in front of the local government commission in terms of their unfunded health care, pension, and LEO liabilities. In the accounting world, we call things estimable and probable to be liabilities. I think these unfunded liabilities are liabilities. So we want to acknowledge these in attachment A. Secondly, as I'm going through and cleaning out my office, came up with a couple of pieces of archives when I was in the legislature, Representative Crutchfield. I introduced a bill to put $200 million toward our unfunded liability 20 years ago. I was not successful. So then I changed it to $100. $100. I still wasn't successful. Because when you put $100 towards something, you're recognizing there is a problem there. But I'm taking that opportunity to applaud many of the cities and the counties, starting with Winston-Salem, who has their unfunded healthcare liability about 85% funded right now. And City of Charlotte, County of Mecklenburg, Wake County, and some other counties are now coming on board and actually started putting money toward these liabilities. And Rose Vaughn Williams was there 20 years ago when I was trying to do this stuff, and still talking about it 20 years later, Rose. So we have a lot of cities and counties that have unfunded liabilities. The state's unfunded liability 8 years ago was 98% unfunded. Right now, it's about 91% unfunded. So we're probably going in the wrong direction again because of rising healthcare costs. So thank you for entertaining that piece of trivia about our unfunded liability. Now we'll turn it over to Jennifer and Kendra, talk about attachment B, our UAL unit.
Treasurer. Good afternoon, Jennifer Wimmer, Director of Debt Management. Today we have one unit, but two separate requests from the town of Carthage. They are on the unit assistance list. The reason that they are presented this way is effects of Senate Bill 265. So the contracts for vehicles, whether it's leased or purchased, coming from any unit on the unit assistance list requires LGC review and approval. The first vehicle is a fire department vehicle. They're looking to finance $43,348. They do have insurance claims in addition to the loan because this was to replace the fire chief's quick response vehicle that was involved in an automobile accident. I'm going to go over the second one and then turn it over to Kendra since this is the same unit. The second request is for $171,801 for 3 new police interceptors. I will now turn it over to Kendra to talk about their FPICs.
Thank you. Kendra Boyle, Director of the Fiscal Management Section. The town of Carthage, as Jennifer told you, is on the unit assistance list. And this is the first year that they've been on this list. And they are up here on the list because of some internal control deficiencies that were findings in their fiscal year 23 audit report. Those internal control deficiencies were related to bank reconciliations that were not done timely and a project ordinance budget that was not adopted by the board prior to expenditure of funds. And additionally, they were over budget in multiple departments. They had violations. Those did not result in use of fund balance. They were just expenditures that exceeded their budgeted amount for those at the budgeted ordinance level. So the unit has identified that the source of these internal control issues is due to a lack of staffing in their finance area, and their plan of action is to hire additional staff to be able to assist the current staff in getting all of these items rectified. They have hired that staff, but they still do not have their bank reconciliations up to date. So because of that, there is a delay in getting their fiscal year 24 audit report to us. But despite these internal control deficiencies, the numbers that we have seen in audited financial statements as well as the budget to actual show a healthy general fund and a healthy water and sewer fund as far as financial condition is concerned. So this request that they brought to you today would be paid out of the general fund for public safety vehicles. And so because we've had the finance officer has been very cooperative and responsive, the board has been responsive, they've laid out a well-planned response to their financial performance indicators of concern. We believe that this debt service for public safety debt will not have a detrimental impact on the status of the general fund's financial condition. So I'll turn it back over to you, Chair.
Thank you. We have joining us remotely Keisha Matthews, Finance Director of Town of Carthage, and Emily Yop, Town Manager. Welcome to the Local Government Commission meeting. With that, staff's recommendation is to, staff's recommendation is to approve. Keisha or Emily, do you have anything you'd like to briefly add?
No, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining us today. With that, I'll entertain a motion to take staff's recommendation.
Move to approve, Bill Beck.
Okay, Phil Beck makes a motion. Mr. Butler, second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
2 applications for the town of Carthage. That's, Phil Beck Butler. Auditor Holmes?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall?
Aye.
Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
And Treasurer Folwell?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
We're now on to our consent agenda, attachment C, through miscellaneous items, Vivian and Town of Mount Pleasant. I'd like to ask any board members if they would like to remove anything from the consent agenda to be voted on separately. Oh, I apologize, Ms. Harvey. I salute you. Other than the bald head item, is there anything else that needs to be removed? Okay. Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda of the items that are listed before you, absent bald head island?
Move the consent agenda, Hoffman.
Thank you, City Councilwoman. And second?
I'll second, John Burns.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Motion second being made. Any further discussion regarding the consent agenda, absent bald head island? Okay, hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Attachment C, minus Bald Head Island, which is the Meridian housing through the Mount Pleasant item. Again, eliminating Bald Head. Hoffman, Burns. Auditor Holmes?
Aye.
Thank you. Secretary Marshall? Aye. Thank you. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
Thank you. And Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Do I hear a motion to approve the Bald Head Island application that was previously part of the consent agenda?
So moved, Marshall.
Marshall makes a motion. Secretary Marshall. Alder Holmes second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
Bald Head Island, Marshall, Holmes, and Ms. Harvey will recuse. Secretary Penny?
Aye.
Mr. Burns?
Aye.
Mr. Butler?
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman?
Aye.
Mr. Philbeck?
Aye.
And Treasurer Falwell?
Aye.
Thank you. That motion carries.
Thank you, members. After going through the consent agenda, we're now on to attachment D, Centennial Authority. We have some folks here joining us virtually. Paul Billow, a partner at Wumble Bond Dickinson. Paul, welcome virtually. And in person, we have Mr. Isley from Blanchard, Miller, Lewis and Isley, and Sarah Dozier from the Chief Financial Officer of the Centennial Authority. You guys want to? Welcome to the Local Government Commission meeting.
Thank you very much, Mr. Treasurer. My first time here. Mr. Treasurer, this is Jeff Merritt. He's the Executive Director of the Centennial Authority, and I am the Chairman of the Centennial Authority.
Good. Well, I went to see Pink last night, so which one of you are going to do the Pink rendition?
My wife's seen her tonight.
Oh, she's seen it. Well, she's in for a fantastic show. So,
Good. Thank you.
as well as Maren Morris, who has 7 #1 hits herself. So, anyway, welcome. I looked at this, looked around last night, all the tickets, looked around. So, welcome.
The Centennial Authority is coming today to request to issue $100 million in bond anticipation note revenue bonds. This is the first phase that they are looking to have arena level improvements, including a multi-purpose room, suites and restrooms, relocation of the hockey equipment storage, and relocation of media, dining, and workroom. Also, service level improvements for service yard, pre-function marshaling, and security entry. Upper concourse refresh to include restrooms, concessions, and circulation and stair removal and infill. They have, obviously, they're not technically a unit of government. However, they fall under the Facilities Authority Act of General Statute, Chapter 168, Article 20, Part 4. Again, the $100 million in revenue bond anticipation notes. And I would take any questions or direct them to the authority.
All right, staff recommendation. Okay. Anything folks would like to say? And
I learned a long time ago when there's a motion to approve on the floor and no other questions that we're just going to shut our mouth. That's for the best.
I was trying to figure out who was supposed to be there with the Marie Lance, I can't remember the singer's name, but anyway. So just generally as a citizen, because this is such an important part of this community, I don't pretend to know what the relationship is between Lenovo, NC State, and the fairground folks. So generally speaking, tell us what you think will be happening, just very briefly, over what period of time. What will people be seeing with this $100 million?
So the executive director, Jeff Merritt.
Yeah, so this will be a 3-year phase project. This first phase will hopefully start roughly in the spring. We have a full calendar next year. Hockey, we hope, goes to late June with the Stanley Cup playoff run and a Stanley Cup final on the 23rd of June. Put it on your calendar right now. But we're going to start mainly with the service yard improvements that we spoke of. Our third level, the 300 level, the top level is going to get a lot of attention with some new restrooms, food and beverage services. One of the creative ideas that our architects have come up with is taking some of the stairways out. We have too many stairways, and we can actually use that space for additional circulation opportunities. We're also going to create some space on our lower level, call it a multi-purpose room. That room now is used as much as any other room in the facility is, and we want to modernize it and expand it so we can use it for even more events. One of the things that we've lacked for a while is the ability to have large gatherings on our event floor. If you've ever sat on our floor, you have to come down the stairs, go out one vomitory, and then go to your seat. Now we're going to have an opportunity for you to get concessions on the ground level, but also host events on non-event days. We host somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 or 400 non-ticketed events throughout the year. That multi-purpose room will allow us to do that. That'll be our first phase. Again, hopefully complete by the time hockey season ends. There'll be a lot of things going on behind walls and below ceilings and things like that. Then phase 2 and phase 3 will start in earnest in roughly, early 2026 and roll through late 2027.
When I buy Section 300 tickets, I'm not on the floor. So I just want to tell you, I've never been on the floor, but
we're going to improve your situation dramatically next summer. I can promise that.
Parking.
Parking is going to improve, I think, based on
$1 last night. So is part of that going into paying off this debt, or?
that Gale Forest Sports Entertainment maintains the parking for us. As you can see, there's a lot of parking attendants, a lot of Raleigh police. We now use NC State University police to help manage that parking. So there's a lot of people that go into managing that. So a lot of those funds goes to pay those folks. But the Centennial Authority does not manage parking.
Our goal during the development, if I may, is to have some DOT improvements, to have some lane signalization improved and upgraded. That's not on our site, but as you look at what we're planning moving forward with the development around the arena, and to your point, the state fairgrounds and all the other activity out there, we're hopeful that what we're doing is going to actually improve ingress, egress into the site, in addition to creating these new parking deck ideas that will allow people to get in quickly and actually exit quickly. That is not necessarily on what this money is for, but just so you understand, there is a very specific plan in place as we move forward to make this area a lot easier to get into and out of.
And anybody else have a question, you raise your hand. But lastly, is this the first tranche, the last tranche total, the 100 million, or is this
It's the first,
first of?
300 million ultimately.
And the timing on that's going to be?
Sarah?
Yeah, Sarah Dozier or CFO.
Yeah.
The timing of that through 27.
Any other questions?
This is financed, thank you. This is financed through the special, it's the prepared food, hotel room and car taxes, is that, or rental car taxes?
Now, the rental car taxes, we're just hotel motel prepared food.
Right, okay. And that is, as I recall for being on the county commission and the convention center commission, that is only to be used for purposes of tourism and special events type funding, right?
Correct.
This is not any sort of general budget from the cities or the county going into the building of this building.
It is not.
Thank you.
Other questions? The artist I was trying to think of, Sheryl Crow.
Okay, good.
She's been touring with Pink, and Pink, as you may know, has some origins in Fayetteville, North Carolina. So, long history in North Carolina. So,
And she can sing while upside down.
yeah. I left class last night at 6:30, walked out at 6:43, got in my car and was in the arena in 19 minutes, and the show started at 7:30.
Wow.
It was sold out.
That's pretty good.
Sold out tonight too? Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't know who did what yesterday, and in a normal car and one person, but it was even right up to showtime with the sold out concert, and I was shocked I was in there that early. So. And,
Some of us have had other experiences.
well, talking to some of the ushers last night, Nicki Minaj was supposed to go on at 9:30. Her plane didn't land till 11:45. Private jet. And was there till 2:45 in the morning. So I hear from the ushers, there's some groups you sign up for because you know you have some predictability about when you can get home. Because for a lot of these folks, these are second jobs, third jobs. So I appreciate all the staff and security that's there. So, yes.
Cindy, no question, but just comment that the findings are the same as for other units of government issuing revenue bans and bonds, the same ones. Plus one little additional phrase in the statute that the issue will affect the purposes of the Facility Authority Act, which I assume is to promote regional entertainment arenas. So just so you know what the findings are. Pretty much the same as the other revenue bond that you look at.
May I ask a question of staff? So are we making a finding that this is adequate and not excessive? Is that
Right.
part of it? Okay.
So, yeah, all those, just like on the agenda sheet.
Well, I'll move
Correct.
approval.
Motion being made, second.
Auditor Holmes, second.
Motion second being made. Any further discussion?
Just-
Mr. Chairman, I just want to thank Commissioner Burns for clarifying to taxpayers that this approval will not result in a tax increase.
Mr. Burns?
I was just going to say go Canes. I'll tell you though, as a part season ticket package holder in the 300 levels, I'm glad you're starting there because I wandered around that place looking for a hot dog. Trying to find a hot dog in the third level is kind of hard, so, but go for it. Do it right, get it done. Looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, motion second being made. Hearing no further discussion, the clerk will call the roll.
All right, Centennial Authority, Burns Holmes, Secretary Marshall. Aye. Secretary Penny,
Aye.
Mr. Butler. Ms. Harvey,
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Philbeck,
Aye.
Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Got a lot of things on the agenda today, and we won't consider it disrespectful if you take your $100 million.
Thank you very much, Mr. Coach. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Tell your wife that she'll go on at 8:45 tonight.
Thank you.
Pretty prompt. Thank you. Next on the item is Cumberland County, Attachment E. This is the Cumberland County Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority. It's otherwise known as Project Arrow. We have lots of folks here. I'm just going to say first names without, it's okay. Harold, Brian, Teresa. Harold and Brian are with the CEO and CFO of American Titanium. Teresa McBride, CEO of McBride Partners. Barry, Chief Legal Officer of McBride Partners. Dave Moffett, Managing Director of Oppenheimer. Robert Van Goens, President of Fayetteville Cumberland Economic Development Corporation. Mary Nash Rusher, McGuire Woods, and Kristen Kirby of McGuire Woods. So any of those there's room for you to maybe can come up and make a presentation. I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions regarding your application. If you need other chairs, we can provide for them.
Introduce yourself and what the role is.
Real quick, so thank you. This is Cindy again. Because this one is different from what you normally see, members, again, special statute for this particular issuance, the Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority. And in the statute, they don't use the words findings are not used, but when you look at the agenda sheets that we gave you, it's those four, it's like the third page of the agenda packet for this matter. We have the questions numbered 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are the considerations the statute asks you to look at in evaluating this project. So it's similar, but not the same as the normal run-of-the-mill. Does the obligor demonstrate financial responsibility and capability? Are the political subdivisions able to provide utilities? And 3 and 4. So, okay. Just want to make sure everybody knew what you're voting on. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Of all my years here, I've not seen anything quite like this with the confidentiality aspects embedded into this. How do we do that in a public meeting?
The openers, let's talk about that.
My suggestion is to ask the principals that are here what part of your documentation can be discussed. Your bond counsel provided to our members what you all were comfortable with. But of course, this is now publicly acknowledged project. So I'll let you, unless your counsel directed that.
You've seen, let me interject here. You've seen the document that our board members have seen, obviously.
Yes.
Do you have any objection discussing anything that's in there?
No. Any of the information that's in the package we consider it to be confidential, but for this purpose, for this meeting, for the conduit issuance from the authority for us to do our bonds, we are comfortable to have a discussion about it. And nice to be here. Nice to meet all of you. I'm sorry that we didn't come in last night and go to the Pink concert. I was like, if I would have known.
Tonight also.
Oh, it's tonight also. Okay. Maybe we'll stay longer. I know. I should have followed them out the door.
Yeah. We want you to, before I go to Mr. Butler, just to identify who you are and your role here.
Yeah, I'm Brian Kurtz, the CFO of Project Arrow.
Harold Rocco, I'm the CEO of Project Arrow.
And I'm Teresa McBride, and I'm the managing member of Project Arrow.
And I'm Robert Van Giens, the president and CEO of the Fayetteville Cumberland Economic Development Corporation, charged to represent Fayetteville and Cumberland County in economic development matters.
Thank you. Mr. Butler, yeah.
I want to be sure I understand. So anything you've given us, we don't have to consider that confidential or proprietary. I'll be sure we understand that. Is that an answer? Yes.
The information that's in this document
Right.
is now no longer confidential, but the additional information that we provided, we would like it to remain confidential. We are onshoring the production of a mission-critical element. So the package that he has there, we're onshoring.
I'm talking about this package right here.
That's correct.
You
We're
want
on,
this to be treated as confidential.
that's correct.
And have we ever done
Open
this?
up what? Because I got mine all at one time, so I don't know what is additional and what's not. This is
John, have we ever done this? As a public body, how do we do this?
And for members, that was identified separately in your packets with that yellow sheet of paper.
I mean, as a public body, how do we do this?
Recognize Mary Nash.
Bring Mary Nash up here.
Thank you. The information that was provided to you, the contracts, both the equity contracts, both the input and the output contracts are deeply underway, but they are not final. So I believe the information that would like to be kept confidential is the identity of the counterparties to those contracts. However, information about the project, what it's going to do, what it's going to develop, information about the expertise of the folks sitting at the table who are going to be leading this project, information about how the financing is going to work, all of that is public and available.
What about the financial sheets of Project Arrow? Is that, I mean, that's in here for 10 years out. Is that stuff you want discussed on an open mic or not?
What's in this packet?
In the PowerPoint.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that
Yeah.
we all understand that everything said in this room is going out over the airwaves as we speak. So I want to make sure that we don't inadvertently, I know Mr. Butler and I were just talking about this. I mean, as a county commissioner, we would sometimes go into executive session on economic development matters. I don't know, I defer to the treasurer whether we can do that here. But I hesitate to start saying
The numbers, yeah.
column 3, and talking about that if that's something y'all want confidential. So we're looking for guidance.
Can we go into it?
I don't think we should be subject to anything like that.
Well, I'm not sure we can go into executive session because there's no incentive that will come out of the executive session other than your approval. So again, the company was attempting to provide you sufficient information to recognize how far down the road this deal was, but at the same time, trying to keep close to the vest identity of the counterparties.
So let's just have let's have a discussion if it's something we feel that is confidential that we can't share in an open session. We'll let you know.
Secretary Marshall is the most prolific dancer on the board. Correct? That's what everybody says.
I take the fifth.
Treasurer, anyway, my point is, we've never danced before.
Like this.
And as you start out your comments, this is a very unusual, irregular type of application. And since we've never done this dance before, we'll just.
Sure, absolutely.
I've been in it a long, I've never signed an NDA. Never. If it can be done on the courthouse steps, I don't want to have anything to do with it. And I've survived 50-some years in public life and got through it scandal-free.
Thank you. So give us a moment. We're going to let Jennifer go through the process and then open up for questions.
Chairman, do we want to do that or let them tell us about the project first or let Jennifer?
We're just following the standard process.
All right.
Okay,
Let's go.
Yes, it's Jennifer Wimmer. I will, very high level, go over the actual application and then turn it over to the company. So the application is actually for $250 million in conduit revenue bonds. The conduit revenue bonds are to be issued by the company. They are dollar for dollar, $250 million from the Department of Commerce on private activity bond volume cap. That is how the private company can issue these bonds for their purposes through the conduit issuer, Cumberland County Industrial Facilities and Pollution Control Financing Authority. The outlook for the entire project, this would be the first application for this amount. The project will go into 2025, and as the sources and uses on the back show, they would be taking out this $250 million at the time that the next bond allocation comes from the Tax Reform Allocation Committee, or TRAC, from the Department of Commerce. So the total project amount is over $1 billion, but this would be the first tranche of the conduit revenue bonds at $250 million for their purposes, and they can discuss and go into details of what the project is and what it will be used for.
Thank you. Okay. Welcome, Local Government Commission, and how would y'all, when you thought about coming here today, tell me about the length of your presentation and who was wanting the
Yeah, I'll start.
sequence.
Yeah, no, I'll start. So as I indicated earlier, we have historically purchased this product internationally, and there's a growing. The United States aerospace, technology, oil and gas, chemical processing, desalination, and biotech industries have been buying alloyed titanium historically internationally since after World War II. They've just been buying it internationally. It's a very expensive product, and it takes a very long time for them to produce it internationally, to ship it here. And so the Department of Defense indicated to us that it was time to onshore the production to the U.S. because there's a growing demand. Today, historically, I'll give you an example. Historically, the single-aisle aircraft, 2% of the weight was titanium, historically. It grew to today, it's now 15% of the weight, and it's as much as 30% of the weight on a wide body. So it's a very high use product now because it's half the weight of steel, and it's 2.5 times the strength, and it is inert and or non-corrosive. So for example, it doesn't need to be coated with the caustic chemicals that you coat steel and aluminum with. In addition, it's used in all in-body devices. So anybody that has a pacemaker, a knee, a hip, a pin, that's all titanium. So it's a very precise engineering solution. It's used very sparingly because it's very expensive. So compared to steel, per ton, it's extremely far more expensive. And so it's not sold by the ton, it's sold by the pound. And so we have designed the production of this. We did a multi-state site selection. And part of the process, because we use recycled materials to make this, so 75% of what we're going to use is recycled. But it's not scrap like a scrapyard, because that was a question that came to us at the county. Are we going to have a junkyard scrap? This is the only product in the entire Boeing supply chain that they contract with us. They pay us. We deliver to 5,000 vendors that make parts for them. They make the part and they ship the part to Boeing and 100% of the scrap. And when they cut into a plate, they affect the structure of that plate. So they cut parts out to make a plate, and the rest of that plate is scrap. So our goal is to be at, for every 10 pounds we deliver to a parts manufacturer, 1 pound will be part and 9 pounds will be scrap. So it's continuously creating scrap, and all that scrap goes to Boeing. Boeing owns all of it from beginning to end. It's infinitely recyclable, so Boeing gets the scrap, they wash it, they crush it, and they turn it into these pucks that you see on this first page. And then we roll it, or we melt it and turn it into this ingot. This ingot here, the current ingots in the market are being made between 2,000 and 5,000 pounds. That's a current ingot. We're going to be producing ingots that are between 22,000 and 37,000 pounds. So this is a jumbo mill, and then we roll it. We only sell two products, plate and sheet. That's all. So we'll roll that plate and roll that sheet. And then in the production of the facility, it'll be about 500 construction jobs for a 3-year period. It's a 36-month build. And then in the operating of the company, we start out with about 300 employees. And it's a technical job, so they're very high-end, high-paying jobs, and it's about over 100,000 annually, which is twice the local salary.
I think we get all that.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, how much money are y'all putting in this?
So the total project is
No, the y'all's money, not money you're borrowing.
300 million, almost 400 million.
400
So
million of your money you're putting in there.
ours and other institutional industrial funds. So the big guys are also coming in this transaction. We have more interest in our equity than we have equity available. So if our equity is at 300 million, we've got over $1 billion in interest because it's a very good project. It's a very clean project. It's considered to be green. And it's also has a very good return. As I said, it sells at a higher price than steel. So for these industrial investors that are used to getting high single digit returns in their industrial investments, this is much better than that. So we have much more interest than we have availability. And David, who's with Oppenheimer, is here as Oppenheimer's our underwriting firm. And the reason we're doing this is because we qualify for a larger amount of private activity bonds. And as you all know, you issue this private activity credit to us. We then give that to our bond buyer, and they get a tax-exempt bond, so they give us a better rate. So this is how we get a better rate for a portion of the bond. So we have a taxable portion. Our debt is going to be taxable at $700 million and tax exempt at $600 million. We qualify for about $800 million in tax exempt, but from the state, we agreed that we would do $600, and a portion is in 2024, which expires December 31st. So we're closing this now to capture this, put it in escrow, and then the rest follows in 2025. And when we close this, unlike the bond market's very big, so it's larger than the debt market, so larger than the direct debt market. And so when we close this project, 100% of the cash, all debt and all equity goes into a trust account. Wilmington Trust is who we're using as a trust company. And then we draw from the trust as opposed to a construction loan where you get progress payments over a period of time. So we're not at risk if there's any issues with a bank or anything of that nature.
Just to make clear, I want to, who pays back the debt on the project?
The company.
It comes from the company, it's not coming from
There's
the company.
there's no liability, if you want to explain. Yeah, it's a conduit issuance. So essentially, because it goes through the county, it touched the county, we can get a tax credit. We take that tax credit, it's like monopoly money, we hand it to the bond buyer, and they get a tax exempt bond, so they're charging us a lower rate. So we have two rates, a tax exempt rate and a taxable rate, and that blended rate is better than both being taxable, or all of it being taxable.
But to answer your question directly, neither the county nor the city nor any governmental entity is on the hook, if you will, for this.
This is an economic development program that exists, federal tax credit, and it was created for jobs, but it's difficult to use because you can't use it easily because you have to have, this one is done via solid waste exemption. So there's a lot of companies out there.
You're doing it under the guidelines that you're getting rid of solid waste because of the scrap. That's the hook that got you in the door.
that's the hook that gets us the tax exemption.
Let me, I know,
And I'll say this respectfully.
Yes, sir.
I think there's a lot of questions on this board when you're talking about $1 billion of something no one's ever done before, at least while I've been the treasurer. And so probably need to tighten up your answers just a little bit to give all the board members an opportunity to
Okay.
get what's on their mind.
So I want to introduce you to Harold, who we selected to be the CFO of the company. And his background is with the company that is the producer of the mill. So the company that's been in business 150 years, and they produce mills. They have operating mills in 60 countries. And they are based in Germany, but they have 20 offices here. And he was the COO of that company and responsible for installations in 30 countries?
Yeah.
Yeah, far larger than this project. Yes, so.
Well, in one sentence, what is McBride Partners?
So what we do is we do the assembly of all of this. So people bring us these projects to be evaluated,
Okay.
predominantly in the aerospace industry, and we'll identify the site and we'll pull the team together, et cetera. So operating side is over here.
So Harold Rebel, and I have been 32 years with the company called SMS, which is well known here in the US. They have a setup in Pittsburgh. The company has been since 150 years in the processing of metals, aluminum, steel, titanium, copper, whatever. And
Was SMS known previously by another name over the 150 years that
it was
may be familiar with?
It was
Okay.
CMAC, and then it was SMS. So, and the company is having about 14,000 employees worldwide. And revenues around 3 billion a year, 4 billion a year.
That's the revenue.
That is the turnover per year, and the revenue is, let's say, in the range of 4 or 5%.
Okay. So the revenue is 3 or 4 billion.
Yeah.
But the return on the revenue is 4 to 5%.
Yeah. That is what I know from the past. So I dropped out some while ago.
Right.
I started as a mechanical engineer and have a mechanical background, and I made my way from designer and project management in these kind of rolling mills, all the way up to become COO on the managing board of that company. And
The revenue of the whole company, parent company, is about 3 to 4 billion.
Yeah.
And you're asking to borrow potentially $1 billion here, just on one project.
They are not the parent company. We are buying equipment from them. So part of the equipment purchase is with his former company. So of this project, equipment is about 500 million. And the cost to build the project is another 500 million. And then we take the interest during construction and we draw that and we put it in escrow.
Okay.
And then we also take 1 year of interest and principal and we put that in escrow. It's a lot. So his company he was with is the company that builds these mills for US Steel, Alcoa, Nucor.
SDI, Big River Steel, so of the Thyssen plant in Mobile, Alabama.
The biggest mills in the world is his former company. They build, install, and implement these mills and maintain them.
And for those virtually, just, I know you have a thing on your computer to raise your hand, but just do like this, just to catch my eye, Mr. Burns.
I just have this is not a financial question, probably not relevant to the 4 questions we have to answer, but I am curious. What type of furnace? Is it an electric arc furnace or a black? What type of fuel are you using to?
We use both electricity for our PAM and VAR furnaces, and then we use natural gas for the rolling mill furnaces. That rolling mill will roll at about 2,000 degrees. So it's a hot roll, so we will roll the metal at 2,000 degrees Constantly, yes. It's a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week
Follow up
operation.
on that. Have you got a contract? I noticed in the readout you talked about doing PwC or Duke. Do you have a contract to supply that amount
Yeah.
with a wet
Oh,
signature
yeah.
on it?
Oh, yeah, we could. So part of the site selection process, the first step in the site selection process is to evaluate the utility capability and the wastewater, utility, and power and gas capability. So that was confirmed early on. And then they gave us a will serve letter and made it to the attention of the local economic development saying, yes, we have the capability and we can serve. But for this meeting, we had them send it to us addressed to the company. So there was a little delay.
There'll be additional lines built to the site.
There will be some extensions and improvements. We have plenty of downstream capacity. There'll be extensions of a gravity sewer line to get to the site itself. We'll be extending an existing water line. There'll be some transportation improvements to extend the access road and put a light out on the roads. The things typical with an economic development project. But as far as capacity within the system, that is more than adequate. We do need to extend things a bit into the site because it's previously been undeveloped. It is identified as one of our best sites, but we have preliminary endorsements for grants from the IDF, and the city and the county are funding it as well with PwC.
And it was a mega site in Fayetteville. And the reason we picked one, because they did have the infrastructure supported. But the other reason we picked it is the economic development support that we received there, the local community.
Do you have control of the site?
Yes. And we're going to not only
You
get this.
actually purchased the site.
We have 300, option on the 315 acres, additional total
Who owns the
350.
site?
Pardon?
Who owns the site?
It's held by a private individual,
Who we've been working with.
Dr. Franklin Clark.
You've got a lock on an option at a given price.
Yes.
It expires when?
And the end of April, because we're
correct.
closing in April, so April, May. Yeah, you got a question up
Oh,
there?
Mr. Alder Holmes?
I defer to Ms. Holmes.
Yes. Alder Holmes.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. One, what would be the impact on this project if we did not approve this item today? And also, what would your plan B be if this item is not approved?
We would go to another state. We would go to another state. It would require that we go to another state.
I noticed on this, go ahead, John.
Follow up, Ms. Alder Holmes.
Yeah, did you finish? Okay.
In terms of going to another state, so do you mean as in if it's not approved today or if it was delayed to another agenda?
I think we can't delay it any further because we would lose the 250. The 250 expires. So this is tax credit. This is not cash. This is tax credit. And we take that tax credit and we put $250 million in the bank in cash, or a trust. So $250 million goes into the trust. It sits there until it merges.
Right. And so, go ahead, Mary Nash Rosa, can I just clarify this? It's not really a tax credit.
No, we have, okay.
It is volume cap. So you might remember that for private activity bonds in the state of North Carolina, for anything other than 501c3 bonds, they don't need volume cap. Every state in the country gets 120, this year it was $123 times state population of volume cap. And that's the total amount of private activity bonds that can be done in that state in any given year.
And most of that's used for affordable housing.
Most is for affordable housing. Some for, you did one 2 years ago for Cargill. You might remember it was exactly this kind of project in the same county even. So solid waste disposal, those rules were expanded about 15 years ago to move from just solid waste disposal, which was private landfills, to recycling. So it fits in the recycling bucket. Back in the old days, there are 1 or 2 of you in this room that remember when we used to do industrial development bonds through this process, but those are capped at $10 million, which just doesn't go as far as it did in 1984. And so those rules are so Byzantine, you don't see many of those anymore. So the Tax Reform Allocation Committee, TRAC, which allocates volume cap for the state, has allocated, recognized that so volume cap in North Carolina for 2024 is about 1.3 billion. In 2025, it's going to be over 1.4 billion because they raised the 123 to 125, and because people are smart and they keep coming to North Carolina, our population goes up. And so the track has allocated 250 of the 2024 cap, and then the administrator at track believes that even with the demand for affordable housing, given the $1.4 million, there will be enough room for another 350 in 2025. So the way to capture that cap in 2024 is to go ahead and issue the bonds, but they will be secured by cash. So the equity providers will have to pay all the costs needed to get this thing closed. They will have to put into escrow all the money needed to pay interest on that, and they will be funded all the way until September of 2025, so that there is just shy of a year to get Part B done, to get the rest of the volume cap, to get the documentation in place, to get the rest of it done. But for the period that they're in escrow, these bonds will be secured by cash and will be AAA rated. And so these bondholders will either be paid out because when Part B gets done, volume cap gets allocated, all the pieces and parts are in place, they would refund the 2024 bonds. Those bonds go away. Now we have 2025 bonds. That cash that secures the 24s just becomes part of the project fund for the 2025s. It's, in tax speak, it's transferred proceeds. Those proceeds just transfer to the 2025 bonds. So this is a way to lump 2024 volume cap and 2025 volume cap. There is a process whereby that 2024 volume cap could be carried forward, but our state, except for the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency and their larger affordable housing programs, typically does not do carry forward. They simply will take it back. So there are probably 10 housing deals that have gotten volume cap for 2024 that won't close. They'll just give it back and then get it again in 2025. But this is a way to avoid asking the state ever to give $600 million in volume cap to one project.
In 1 year. Yeah.
Well, I happen to be on that committee as the treasurer, and Treasurer-elect Reiner will also be on that committee. And during that first discussion, I abstained from voting on this transaction because I couldn't understand it. So anyway, thank you for that explanation. But on to Mr. Burns, but the whole time that I've been the treasurer, I mean, affordable housing is a big deal, especially when you look at how far people are having to drive to get to their urban work settings. And so I've always been very protective about volume cap and things diverting money away from affordable housing. So, Mr. Burns.
I mean, at the end of the day, isn't that what we're doing?
Well, with all due respect, you might see that they're coming to you today for, there is so much volume cap. They will get at the end of this year, probably even when this project gets funded, between $400 and $500 million that they've got to use in the next 3 years, and they have been getting that amount.
But
They being the housing?
And most of that goes into the single-family mortgage program. The multifamily mortgage program, they're probably 30 of those deals approved every year, 20 that those are done in $20 and $30 million chunks. It takes a lot of those to use up $1 billion.
The housing,
with all due respect, what if you're wrong about that? I mean, the people would not be able to, their capital would not be there to do those deals. If you're wrong about us not hitting our head on the ceiling and there being plenty of volume cap and more people moving to our state.
I just know there's $1.4 billion in 2025.
And if I can ask, in 2024, you're looking for 250 million?
Correct. That's what was allocated.
That's what's allocated?
Yeah.
And if this doesn't go through, it's not like there's $250 million worth of public housing waiting in the wings to be funded.
Well, the Housing Finance Agency would get it, and they would have 3 years to use it.
3 years to use it.
They get the
Okay.
leftover.
This is part of this has gone through the JDIG process as well, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And that's all completed, and now you're just buttoning up the last financial aspects of it?
Correct.
And how many jobs?
It's 500 construction jobs over 36 months. It's over 300 jobs initially, and then we'll grow to 500 jobs in about a 4-year period.
Given that there would be a titanium supply nearby, are you expecting spin-off jobs in the aerospace industry?
Well, this would be a very big foot in the door for Fayetteville to create an aerospace community. And the land that we're buying, so this is going to sit on 134 acres. We're buying another 250 acres, and we've got about 5 other companies that we will be building for there that are related to the aerospace industry.
Let me ask you something. I read about the take-or-pay contract.
Mhm.
At what level was that signed by Boeing?
It is the only take-or-pay contract in the entire company. So Boeing,
But my question was, at what level? Who
It had to-
signed the piece of
it
paper?
had to get board approval because it's the only take-or-pay
Is
contract.
it in the board minutes then?
I don't know if it'll be in their public board minutes, but I know that they had to go to the highest level to get it. We work with the head of contracting for the whole company. That's my relationship at Boeing. The reason it's not miraculous that we got a take-or-pay contract, people think it is a product that they cannot build an aircraft without. So they were willing to sign a take-or-pay contract because they can't build an aircraft without it.
Isn't Boeing out seeking capital right now? I looked at their stock today. It's a year low, and it's the lowest it's been in 12 months.
Well, they've got a backlog of 49,000 aircraft. So, but Boeing and Airbus combined, they have a backlog of 49,000 aircraft. They're making 70 a month. So they've got a lot of aircraft to make.
But to mathematically answer Mr. Butler's question, they are issuing preferred stock, not a sign of strength. They have issued equity, not a sign of strength. They are trying to refinance their debt, not a sign of strength. So the backlog is, we all know there's 2 places that make airplanes. We all are very familiar with economic development. And so it's a fair question.
Yeah.
If I could just offer one thing this does from a defense, from a procurement side, as we're home to Fort Liberty, this brings to the U.S. production of this critical resource that is currently done in nations that are not our friends, whether it be Russian or Chinese, and the flaws that come with that. So when we look at the ability to serve, yes, that customer, but aviation, defense, and innovation, this is truly a transformational project for Fayetteville and Cumberland County and aligns with what we do best, which is protect America there in Fayetteville at Fort Liberty.
And we will be exporting to Airbus in France, and we will be exporting to Germany and UK and other allied nations for their defense systems. But we chose to go with Airbus as our first largest take-or-pay contract.
Let me ask you this, and the reason I was so questioning about confidential, I spoke to a metallist that specialized in aircraft metal, titanium. He advised me that their manufacturing process is so sophisticated now, there is not that much waste. I'm just telling you what the man told me. He said, there is not that much waste to be recycled again. But that's one person's opinion who lives very well and was a medalist. I
will explain to you, there's different types of end product. We're going to make plate, and there is long product that they remelt. They cut it off and they forge parts for landing gear and things of that nature. There's no waste there because they're remelting it and forging it into set parts. What we're selling is a plate that's like this, and that's the parts that they have to cut out. So it's stamping, it's a different process. There's no major jumbo plate manufacturer in the US.
Let me ask you this. On the rendering of the plant, it shows a rail line. What role does rail play in this?
That is the R.J. Corman line. It is utilized in both the delivery and refurbishment of equipment, as well as has the capacity to be inbound for
Is that rail line
titanium
on the
scrap.
site now?
It is.
So it says proposed in here.
I'm sorry?
I thought it said,
The rail line is there. The spur will be built as part of the construction.
doesn't it say proposed?
The equipment that we have coming in for the rolling section is extremely heavy. And so that has to come on rail. So it comes, and that is a consideration for us selecting a site. It comes via ocean, then gets transferred to rail, and then on our site, we have cranes that are 250-ton cranes that will lift that equipment and place it in place. So the equipment, I think.
It's mainly the rolls, because the rolls are a wear and tear part. And after a certain period, you have to get new ones and you have to grind them. So there is a regular transportation, not every day, but frequently, so that these rolls have to come in. They have a weight of more than 100 metric tons.
And what will the value be on the tax books in Cumberland County?
At completion, roughly $1.5 billion.
And is Cumberland County going to waive any of the property taxes on that?
But we do have a performance-based grant from the Cumberland County, approved by Cumberland County and the city of Fayetteville, and it escalates based on the performance of the company. They have to get the maximum grant back, they would have to have more than $1 billion on the tax books and have more than 400 jobs paying an average salary, roughly 150% of
Would
it.
the property taxes be cut?
It would be up to, they could at maximum achievement get 85% for a few years. It would go up and down.
Reduction in the property taxes.
They're receiving an incentive grant.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
and that's part of the incentive over a set period of time, a few years.
What's the tax base of Cumberland County now?
The total tax base?
Yeah, what is the?
I'm sorry, sir, I don't have that.
Secretary Marshall?
Yeah, go on.
We're gonna
I have a totally different kind of thing. In looking at this and reading it, I'm not, this is not my field, obviously, but I didn't see anything about environmental permitting. I see it's a minor remitter, but.
Yeah, we get an air permit. So the air permit work has already been done. It's almost complete. So first of all, we had to get wetland delineation with the Army Corps of Engineers. So that's been completed. It was done July 12th, the complete,
That's about right.
yeah, complete certification. And then the historical artifacts was completed and the endangered species was completed. And then we do an air permit with your DEQ. And we've done a majority of the work. The meetings that we're going to have in the next 2 days with the equipment providers is going to be to, there's some improvements, et cetera, but we don't emit anything other than heat. And one thing I do want to say that it helps clarify this a little bit. If you go to a steel mill, there's sparks flying and slag flowing, and that's the kind of environment. When you melt titanium, you melt it in a vacuum and you deal with it in a very controlled environment. It is it's a clean room environment. So it's not, there's no sparks or anything. It's just a very clean, when it's rolling, it's a orange thing going back and forth on the rollers because it's hot, it's rolled hot, but the rest of the environment is extremely clean.
And all that, Secretary Marshall.
No, I'm trying to figure out how it all.
No, to answer your question on a local level, the only output on this, and this does not contradict what Member Butler had heard, if you're talking about waste in the production process, what they get is scrap from production parts.
Yeah.
The cooling water goes into our sewer system. The air permit is a minor air permit, which is similar to what the VA has or Cape Fear Valley Regional Hospital, and not the higher level, which some of our other manufacturers have. So it's actually just a minor air emission permit. And sewer water cooling water goes into the PWC sewer system, which would be pre-tested prior to it getting to the plant.
Just a couple of, well, I'm sure we're going to have more questions, but since members of this board wear several different hats, I thought the Atlantic Coast Pipeline was supposed to bring low-cost natural gas to Cumberland County. So where are you getting all this natural gas?
We're getting it from Piedmont, from Duke.
It does not reach, Piedmont is in a series of upgrades. There's actually a site that we had spoke to them about and are increasing capacity to compensate for what could have been the Atlantic Coast Pipeline. But they do not need that high level of firm pressure and volume in order to achieve their process. So we do have adequate capacity and the ability to get there with Piedmont.
All of your homes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted to go back to environmental impact and make sure that I understand this correctly, that the permitting and sort of environmental evaluation is pending.
It's a minimal impact. So we're a minor emitter is what it's considered. So we've had several meetings with your DEQ, and we have a company, an engineering firm that evaluates every piece of equipment, and then they work with us on our air permit application. Thomas & Hutton is the firm that we're using for that. And they have been working with the state DEQ, and so we're almost wrapped up. What has to happen next is they put testing equipment on site to determine airstream and airflow, and then after that, it's wrapped up.
All of Auburn homes?
Should there be any issues with that process, then what?
If I may, respectfully, I believe that the final specifics to get the actual permit rely on the location of the equipment and the siting in the final design. That is still coming through this process here. But the ability, based on the emissions, to get a permit is not in question, and they are well below those thresholds. But to actually get the document, you have to be able to finalize everything, and we are working through that as part of this here, unless I'm mistaken.
That's correct.
So we can get it, we just can't fully apply and finalize it until we get past this point.
Yes.
You made a comment earlier, if this board does not approve this transaction, that you'll go to another state.
Correct.
There's been some degree of confusion about the company with your name versus another company with a name similar to yours that went bankrupt in South Carolina. And when you talk about going to another state, I was under the impression that that wasn't really an option for you because of your ability to use this type of bond.
No other state.
Anything I've said correct?
No, other states have large private, I mean, think of any populous state in the country, they all have private activity bond allocation ability. We would just have to, because we've had to run a multi-state site selection because you can't be, all your eggs in one basket. So we're very busy bees and working on a lot of things. But
About the confusion with the names.
We name things based on the country where we're doing it, what it is. They also name themselves something similar to ours. We don't have a relationship with that company. It is a separate company.
It was called?
They were called Works. They were called Works, and we're called Metal. So they were going to make parts as well. They were going to make
The full name.
Their American Titanium Works.
And they declared bankruptcy.
They declared bankruptcy. They were building something much different than what we are, smaller and different.
And I'll say this for the record, is there anybody in your company that was associated with that company?
We've hired some of the people that had worked with that company historically. So our head of construction, who used to work for US Steel, who used to work for Nucor, had also consulted with them. He's now working with us, but that's what he does. He works with a lot of companies.
Are any of your vendors like Boeing, are they Oppenheimer, are any of them equity investors?
Yes, some of our vendors are equity investors.
Boeing's 50% of your business.
No, we did not opt to take capital from customers. Our vendors are invested. So our construction company asked if they could invest. Our melting furnace company asked if they can invest. SMS has asked if they can invest. Multiple vendors are investing, but not customers. We want to keep our customers as customers. And so.
But the first tranche of this is an interest-only loan. So when you talk about debt service, you're not talking about the P, you're talking about the I. You're not talking about the principal.
Yes, sir, because the principal will be, the principal and enough money to pay the accrued interest, all of that will be funded on day one and invested either in slugs or in treasuries, so that when we get to the interest payment date and the payoff date, if the refunding doesn't happen, the bondholders are made whole. So the goal is for the bondholders to have no risk here.
And just like in this building, if you earn a higher rate of interest on that investment versus what you're paying, then you're going to pay tax on that, even though it's quote not taxable.
We would have to rebate it to the federal government. If the delta would be rebated if they don't meet an exception. They're going to pay something, yes, sir.
Yeah.
All right.
And our,
Yeah.
Did you do any work on this project in Tennessee?
No.
Are you familiar with it? It's a major titanium plant up there in Tennessee. It's a scoping study. You find it online.
Have any of you ever heard of that?
You've never heard of this?
No. Well, I'm not sure where Mr. Butler's going, but is there a chance that this could be like a mill? I mean, it is a mill, sort of, but that something like this could pop up if the return on equity is so high that you've got a 4-time oversubscription for your equity. I'm just kind of curious what RO.
Could more be built? Right now, the production, the demand, that's why we have an expansion planned, but the demand is far greater than what's available. Even if Russia came back into the market, it's far greater than what's available. So there's more need and growing need. They're starting to use it in automotive. They're working on redoing half of the submarine fleet that uses a ton of titanium, tons and tons of titanium, et cetera. So, and Brian didn't speak much, but Brian was a CFO.
He didn't spoke at all.
He said his name.
Doing okay.
But Brian was a CFO at both, or.
Yeah, I worked at Nucor Steel. You all are probably very familiar with Nucor Steel. I was the plant controller of Nucor Steel Berkeley. So I was involved in the Greenfield project all the way from start to commissioning. And it's about $1 billion project there. And it is now the flagship steel mill of Nucor. So it was a great project to be involved in. After that, I worked at International Steel Group in Cleveland, Ohio, for Wilbur Ross, who was the former Secretary of Commerce under the Trump administration. And we bought Bethlehem Steel, which was kind of an exciting thing. We bought Bethlehem Steel. We had bought LTV Steel, and we took the company public. So I am a licensed CPA in North Carolina and South Carolina. After I did my financial stint in Cleveland, I then ran a steel mill in Georgetown, South Carolina. I don't know if you all are familiar with the steel mill in Georgetown. So I ran that steel mill for 3 years. We took it out of bankruptcy, believe it or not, and employed over 300 people at that mill while I was there. So I was directly involved in that. And after that, I've now had my own CPA practice for a number of years in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina.
The titanium plant in South Carolina, the project that went bankrupt, did they ever?
No, they never broke ground. No, they never broke ground. They had identified a site, and they got about $2 million, as I understand it, in incentives. They hadn't completed their tax incentives yet. So they never broke ground or anything of that nature. It was more exploratory. This is more, to build. And I will say one thing that has been said earlier, but when you take steel and copper, steel sells for about a finished plate, like what we'll produce will be plates this thick. Finished plate sells for about $700 to $1,000 a ton. Aluminum sells for about $2,500 to $2,900 a ton. Titanium, the alloy that we're going to make. Now you can go on Alibaba and buy some kind of titanium for $50 or something, but the plate alloy that we're going to make sells between $35,000 and $250,000 a ton. So it's not sold by the ton, it's sold by the pound. And so it's a different, and it's engineering solution that they cannot, they said they can't build an aircraft without it. We can't redo the submarine fleet without it. We can't build our military aircraft without it. It's just, historically, it was being bought elsewhere.
Why did you choose the Fayetteville site?
Excuse me?
Why did you choose the Fayetteville site?
Size, proximity to rail, utility capability, local. Yeah, we looked at other sites.
Facilities that were not flat facilities.
Yeah, I was going to say, the way this project came to be to us is actually rather interesting, as in they had looked previously, and it was it's interesting, was it Ronald Reagan? Well, he didn't originate it, but trust but verify is often ascribed to him, and locally, we feel the same way. We were working with a developer on a project that is happening here elsewhere in North Carolina, a developer of substantial capacity. That project, they liked our site, they liked our team. In the end, the wages for that project ended up being too low for the Fayetteville market, but they said, we have got someone that you need to talk to. We've got a project that we think would be great. And that is how we were introduced to Teresa.
They're the same construction company.
And so that is a site that we have prepped to be shovel-ready, and it is our last best site. And this is exactly the type of project within the capacity we were able to acquire through natural gas for this type of project there. Beyond that, too, we actually, when I dug a little deeper, have seen some of their technical staff working with other major titanium manufacturers in smaller facilities, including those in Salisbury. So at each step of the way, from SMS to the developer to the actual, those on the team, the technical aspect, we've seen their capacity to do it, but how did it come to us? It came to us because of the quality of site and the experiences the developer had with our team looking at it previously.
If you took this transaction to a bank, we have a lot of great bankers in the state, based on the financials that you presented to this board, do you think that they would finance this?
Yes, but the problem with going to a bank is banks can't do loans over 50 million, essentially. They'll syndicate it out. And so when I go to a bank to get a loan, they syndicate it to the A, the B, and the C tranche at different rates. So then I get some sort of blended rate. The value for any big project to go to a bond market is everybody has the same rate. It's easier to get it done. That's why the bond market is larger than the commercial loan market. It's a larger market.
And you're North Carolina, Delaware chartered, North Carolina chartered corporate, where are you?
It's a North Carolina, it's a North Carolina corp, but we will be licensed, we will be registered in the state as well with you.
Is it a corp?
I mean, it's a Delaware corp, sorry, Delaware corp.
Delaware Corp.
LLC,
Delaware LLC, and then we will be,
domesticated here.
yes.
Be happy to do it.
Yes, thank you, I look forward to it. That's on our list of to-dos after this meeting.
Is there a staff position or a review of this application?
As Cindy mentioned, the findings, if you will, or what we were tasked to review, we've reviewed them and the answers and were satisfactory.
Okay.
This is Cindy Aiken. If I can piggyback on that, because this was different, because this is a brand-new venture and there's no history for this particular history, the staff could do so much what they could do with the proposed projected findings. And so our thought was to try to give you as much information as you can so you could do due diligence. So what we had was, we had a letter from Mr., say your last name?
It's all right. You can say it any way you want.
Robert.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Treasurer.
Thank you.
We knew it had been through JDIC, so
Right.
Department of Commerce, but again, the trust but verify idea, try to give you members as much information and have this Q&A as well, because this is different from almost everything else you look at where there's some kind of financial history.
You mentioned the volume cap. Other than that board, is there any other boards that this has been approved by? As far as the
county for the JDIG,
state level.
JDIG, and then the volume cap allocation.
Which part of that comes through the Department of Commerce? Which part?
You folks.
Because I asked I sent an email, is in your material to Secretary Sanders. Since we've never done this before, and we're talking about over $1 billion, is she personally, does she endorse this as the Secretary of Commerce? I did not get an answer back that was satisfactory to me. I did not speak for her, but she said that, I guess it's in your board material that, I was just looking for a simple yes or no. Since it's something that's never been done before, I consider it to be speculative, and highly leveraged and taking money out of, volume cap. So, I did make that attempt anyway, so. Anybody else have a question?
I'll move approval of the project as Rec has proposed in the application.
Is anybody comfortable with making a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Billback. Is that okay, Secretary Marshall?
Could Mr. Burns please repeat the motion?
Move approval of the application as presented.
We have a motion second. Is there any further discussions or any questions that you'd like to ask?
I'd like to ask Cindy one question. Cindy, I'm on the board that approves these JDIG grants. Does that create any issue for me?
Well, that's a good question. So you were involved in this one, Secretary Penny?
Either I was involved or somebody who represented me was involved. Let's just put it that way. Let's put it that way.
I don't know. Yeah, make quick, so I keep this chapter open in my minutes. I don't think so.
It's no personal interest.
No, I don't have any personal interest. And obviously the legislature who put me on both of these boards knew that this kind of come up.
For that matter, Treasurer Falwell was on the track. He abstained, but he didn't have to. So, no, that's not going to constitute a conflict, but I'm going to double check myself because I say. Start.
We have a, can we proceed?
I think I got an answer, so I'm fine.
He's fine.
It's not a conflict. His duty's the same in both instances.
Motion second being made. Any further discussion? Just one final point. As far as so you're an employee of the company.
Yep.
You're an employee of the company.
That's correct.
You're a,
Project manager.
and is that a contingent fee or how's that designed?
No, we're actually investing in the project.
Okay. And the economic development director,
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
who's paid by your,
By the city and the county to improve our economic and job creation in our community, yes.
without contingency.
No contingency, absolutely not. Do a good job, I get to keep my job.
All right, motion second being made. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
And I'm satisfying myself that neither one of those two pathways to look at conflicts are going to apply to Secretary Penny's or yours for that matter question.
I abstained on the other committee because I didn't understand the deal.
Yeah, that's fine.
Still don't understand the deal.
Yeah, the financial relationship or the personal/business relationship, it's not that. All right. The authority for so I don't have to say the whole name. The IFP-CFA of Cumberland County. Burns and Philbeck, motion second. Auditor Holmes.
I'm going to abstain on this one. I do not feel comfortable voting for it. I don't feel like I have enough information. And from what I've heard from staff, and from what I've read in the email from Secretary Saunders, there doesn't seem to be a resounding yes. And I will also note that there's no precedent for this, and I've heard comparisons to a failed company that went, had at least some similarities that went bankrupt. And I'm also not comfortable voting in favor of this regarding the volume cap and the possibility of tying up that much of the cap in a fiscal year.
Okay, I'm marking abstain. Secretary Marshall? Aye. Secretary Penny?
Come back to me, please.
Mr. Butler?
I'm not going to vote for it.
Is that a no?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Aye.
Thank you. Councilwoman Hoffman?
No.
Treasurer Falwell?
No.
Secretary Penny?
Aye.
I get 5 yes and 3 no and 1 abstain.
Feel bad.
2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, the motion carries 5 to 3.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We'll take a break till,
We'll do it.
12 after 3 if we can.
about the Sears volcanoes.
That was a,
So this is broken up into two, right?
and are we good? Mics are unmuted again? If anybody who's listening virtually can let me know you can hear me, please. Just make sure we're connected.
Auditor,
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. So we have Secretary Penny, Auditor Holmes, Ms. Harvey, Mr. Philbeck, Ms. Hoffman back. I believe that are all of our virtual members.
Secretary Marshall.
Oh, Secretary Marshall. Didn't notice that. Just a reminder, mics are open and we're broadcasting again, but we're waiting 2 more minutes before we begin.
yes, sir.
Okay.
What would you like?
We're now back in session. We're now to attachment F, Cabarrus County. We have 2 applications that are before us at the request of the county that they be split into 2 applications. I'll turn the meeting over to Jennifer. We have a whole list of folks here. Many of you have seen them here over the last several months on other items. And with that, Jennifer, you have the floor.
Can I note really quickly for members, sorry, in your packets, you were provided with comments pursuant to our policy. Early this afternoon, members were provided with any last comments that came in as of midnight last night, again, pursuant to our policy. So they're either in your emails. If any members here would prefer a hard copy, if you didn't receive it, we're happy to spin those off as we begin discussing it. But you did just want to make note that members did receive another email with some more comments.
Thank you, Debbie. Again, this is Jennifer Wimmer. The debt approval applications before the commission today for Cabarrus County are being presented as 2 separate items at the county's request, as Chair Falwell had said. The first application is for $73 million in limited obligation bonds for 9 projects, including various school projects, a library, and a senior center building. The county has provided information as required for these 9 projects, included in this first request. We are pleased to recommend approval for this first request. The $73 million request includes an addition for Fred L. Wilson Elementary School, Concord High School HVAC replacement, Forest Park Elementary HVAC replacement, Bennington Hills Elementary HVAC replacement, our CCC South Campus HVAC replacement, Hickory Ridge High School roof replacement, Cox Mill Elementary School roof replacement, Wolf Meadow Elementary School roof replacement, and a public library and active living center at Afton Ridge. Again, this is a request for $73 million. The term is 10 years on the equipment portion of this and 20 years on the construction. An estimated all-in true interest cost is 2.905% for the equipment and 3.595% for the other projects, with a not to exceed amount of 5%. The public sale is a date to be determined.
Staff is recommending that the application of the $73 million of lobs for these multiple projects be approved. Do I hear a motion to that effect?
I so moved.
So moved, Alder Holmes.
Mr. Butler made the motion. Alder Holmes will second.
If I could add, I have a question, if I could, Mr. Treasurer, to suggest a friendly amendment to that motion, if you don't mind.
Go ahead, John.
To approve and allow the bonds to go forward to sale.
Never heard of that before. Somebody will have to educate me. What does that mean?
What's that?
It's my.
What are you fearful of? I guess?
I'm not really fearful of anything. I'm just, it's my understanding that there's kind of two steps they have to go through. We can approve the projects, but there may be other rules that we have established that may limit when the bonds are able to go for sale. Is that accurate?
No.
Okay.
Most of the time, the unit of government has already contacted us about possible sale dates, but because of the way and the history of these projects and making sure that the approval would take place, we were waiting on the approval and then the request of underwriter or financial advisor in the unit of government to request a sale date at their preference that was available on our bond calendar. Everyone else's sales included.
Is there any restriction on their sale date based upon the existence or completion of their current audit? I've heard that as a concern, and I just want to make sure we address that if we're going to approve the projects.
Right. So to your point, normally the units of government that come to the November and December agendas have to have their current audit in to be even heard. This, because this process and the discussions have been going on for months, we did not want that to be a barrier for this November agenda item.
Thank you.
Motion and second being made. Any further discussion on staff's recommendation to approve the $73 million lobs for the multiple school projects, library, and senior center? Yes, ma'am. Madam Alder Holmes.
Just for clarification purposes, Commissioner Burns, were your questions satisfactorily answered?
I believe so, yes. I appreciate Ms. Wimmer entertaining my inartfully presented question, but I got the answer I was looking for. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll.
For approval of Cabarrus County, the $73 million lobs application, Butler, Holmes. Secretary Marshall. Aye. Secretary Penny.
Aye.
Mr. Burns.
Aye.
Ms. Harvey.
Aye.
Councilwoman Hoffman.
Aye.
I'm sorry?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Mr. Philbeck.
Aye.
Thank you. Treasurer Falwell.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Turn it back over to Jennifer for the $78 million lobs.
Thank you. The second application before the commission is the county is requesting $78 million in limited obligation for 3 school projects. Although the county has not been able to provide the required documentation that supports the cost of these 3 projects, county staff have indicated that the final guaranteed maximum price contracts will be available in December and January. LGC staff is ready to present these items to the commission with a recommendation for approval as soon as these final GMPs are provided, and we anticipate that to be in the February agenda.
Question, you have questions? There are preliminary GMPs are part of the package for these 4 projects on this package. And is it true that preliminary GMPs would have been acceptable if this was a bond anticipation note or a drawdown program? Would we have accepted that type of contract?
At the time that most bond anticipation note contract or applications come in, they would not have final guaranteed maximum prices.
Okay.
So to answer your question, that would be a possibility.
And I'm just trying to explore a few things. If in a guaranteed maximum price contract, there is a provision for renegotiation of the scope if the price ends up exceeding the GMP, usually in a GMP contract. So it's final, but it could be not final if the parties all agree on a change in scope, right? Do y'all anticipate that when you approve or when you look at GMP projects that it might end up being more than that? And what's the difference between that and how a PGMP works?
Okay. 2 parts of your question. Most of the time when the units of government come to us with a final GMP and there is a question of if there's a scope change. Most of the time that question is asked during the time of the review, and the decision has been made already at the local unit and the local level that there will be no scope. Like they have at the final GMP, they have determined their scope. So any unforeseen changes that would be needed after they break ground or anything like that would be minimal. And we ask how they would be able to take care of that overruns with cost, and the unit of governments provide us with an answer of internal funding. So it would not be in the, or the amount of debt or request would be changed. It would be the amount that has come to be presented on the application.
Okay.
Could you check?
I have a question, but I don't know who to ask it to. Nobody's sitting up here.
We have lots of folks. Mr. Chairman, if you'd like to come up, any other county commissioner that's here. Any county commissioner for Cabarrus County is welcome to come up, please.
It's 4 out of 7.
We have
3 out of 7.
Commissioner Kenny Workman, myself, Chairman Steve Morris, Commissioner Chris Meesmer, and Brian Cohn, Director of Architecture and Planning for our school system.
I've learned a new phrase from this booklet that you all put together, and that value engineer to reduce. Is that what I think